All right, welcome back. Students who are taking Math for Business and Finance and Math Applications. And we're coming down to the home stretch here for our Chapter 10 word problems, the odd numbered problems. And we're down to problem 10-31. So we have 31, 33, and 35 left. Yeah, I can't wait to get finished with them either. So, like I said, I'm doing these as if I was a student. Okay, so you're seeing about how much time it takes for me to do them and how much time it's taken for, you should be taking to be doing them, okay? All right, so 1031. Carol Miller went to Europe and forgot to pay her $740 mortgage payment on her New Hampshire ski house. All right, so let's see here. For her 59 days overdue on her payment, the bank charged her a penalty of $15. What was the rate of interest charged by the bank? Right. Round to the nearest 100th percent, and we're going to assume 360 days. Okay. So remember, interest is equal to principal times rate times time. And whenever we have to figure out something else, like in this case here, it's asking for the rate of interest. So we take our rate, and that's equal to we put our interest in the numerator, and whatever is left over, in this case here it's principal and time, okay, we put in the denominator multiplying them. Right? So the question now is we have to fill in these variables. Okay, so what's our interest? Okay, so the bank charged her a penalty of $15. So 15 is the interest. And what is our principal? Well, that was a $740 mortgage. And what was our time? Well, it was 59 days over the 360 that we're assuming. And that's all there is to it. Okay. Now, this one here, you feel a little bit out of sorts because, again, we're looking at it's not cookie cutter, just plug and play the numbers. But as you can see, everything that I'm doing here is not any different than what I had done in the previous videos. Okay, I had manipulated this formula in the previous videos in order to find time. Well, this time I'm manipulating it to find the rate. And I went through the same exact thought process. But if you're trying to copy it, exactly and not understand and follow a process, you may get this wrong. And now once I have that formula set up here, now I have to figure out, what I'm going to plug in for my values. And the values are, did you see a principal amount of $10,000? No, you see a mortgage payment here. Okay. So if you're trying to copy exactly, then you might get lost. So again, it's about understanding concepts. My principal amount doesn't have to be a lump sum. It can be this here mortgage payment of $740. $740. Just like this penalty, when you say penalty, is that interest? Well, yes and no. Okay. In this case here, it's not saying the bank charged her interest of $15. No, it's saying charge the penalty. But when you think about it, it's money owed. She borrowed. She has a payment of $740, and what is owed on that? Well, that amount, that penalty owed on it, is 15. All right, that's the interest on it. Interest is not specifically, oh, I have a bank loan of X number of dollars and I pay this amount against this rate. You have to consider the concepts and apply them to the situation at hand. Okay, so let's do the math for this. So I end up with $15 in the numerator, and if I take 740 times 59 days, I have 43,660 over 360. So I divide that by 360, and I have 15 in the numerator, and then I have 121.27 in the denominator. And so if I take 15 and I divide it by 121.2777, I end up with 0.12368. Okay, and that's a decimal, so I convert it into a percentage because it's asking for the nearest hundredth of percent. Well, to convert decimal to a percentage, move the decimal place to the right 2 places. And so I have 12.368, and it's asking me to convert to the hundredth. So the 6 is in the hundredth spot. Look to the right, 8 is greater than 5. So I round, and I end up with 12.37%. Okay, right, that's that problem. 10-33, Joy Kirby made a $300 loan to Robinson Landscape at 11% principal rate. Robinson paid back the loan with interest of, there's interest of $660. How long in days, so we're looking at time, was the loan outstanding? And we're assuming 360 days ordinary. So again, interest equal to principal times rate times time. And if we need to figure out the time, we set that to the left, put the interest in the numerator, and what's left, principal and rate, in the denominator. So we'll just fill in the blanks here. So my interest is 660. My principal was 300 times my time, times my rate, which is 11%. So 660 over 300 times 11% is 33. So 660 divided by 33 is equal to 0.2. Okay. And since we're assuming 360 days, we multiply by the 360 and we get 0.2 times 360 comes out to 72 days. Okay, that's our answer, 72. Now, the thought just occurred to me. A lot of you may be wondering why we're multiplying by 360 in this situation instead of dividing. Remember, when we were looking at exact interest or ordinary interest, we had the number of days over 360. Okay. Well, here when we get the 0.2, okay, we have to convert that into the number of days, and notice that this here is dividing. Well, to do that, that's why we end up multiplying by the 360 to come out with the 72 days. Okay, so when you're ever in these situations, just remember that when you're being asked, the time period, you're going to come out with a number, but you have to multiply it either by the 360 or the 365 in order to get the number of days. Okay. All right. Last problem here. Oakwood Plowing Company. All right, good. I was afraid it was a U.S. Rule 1. Okay. So Oakwood Plowing Company purchased 2 new plows for the upcoming winter. In 200 days, Oakwood must make a single payment of $23,200 to pay for the plow. As of today, Oakwood has $22,500. If Oakwood puts the money in the bank today, what rate of interest will it need to pay off the plows in 200 days? Okay. All of this process is no different. The process is no different than before. The problem with this word problem is it is a word problem. Okay. Remember, with word problems, we have information directly related to solving the problem, information that has nothing to do with the problem, and information that has to be manipulated. Okay. So we need we know our formula is interest is equal to principal times rate times time, right? And we look at this here and we see that there's 200 days, so that's our time. Must make a single payment of 23,200, so that's at maturity, okay? And right now he has 22,500, all right? That means he's going to need an additional $700 at that time. So if he puts this 22, it says if Oakwood puts the money in the bank today, what rate of interest? Okay, so we're going to need to know what the rate, sorry, let me erase that. What rate of interest, okay? So we're going to be calculating for the rate. Right? So rate is equal to interest over what's left, principal and time, principal times time, okay? Now, if we know this is the formula, let's figure out what we have to do to find the values for these variables. Well, what's my interest? Okay. Well, I need, and this is where the solving word problems, the manipulating of the data comes into play. If I have $22,500, and I need 23,200, okay, that's $700 that I'm going to need. Right, then I'm going to have to get that as interest in order to be able to get to the 23,200 to be paid, to pay off the loan. So my interest is going to end up being $700. Okay, my principal is going to still stay the same at 22,500 because that's what I'm putting in the bank in order to be able to collect that interest. And we want to know what that rate is, but we're putting it in at 200 days. And we're using 360 as our ordinary method, right? We want to figure out what that rate is. So that's how we get to, those variables, right? So now let's just do the math. So I keep the $700 in the numerator, and I take 22,500 times 200, and that, let's see, 22,500 times 200, and that gives me 4,500,000 over 360 divided by 360, and then that gives me 700 over 12,500. And if I divide the 700 by the 12,500, I end up with 0.056. And of course, that's in a decimal format. And to turn it into a percentage, move the decimal place to the right too. So I end up with 5.6%. That's the rate that is needed in order to be able to earn the $700 to be able to pay off the loan of $23,200, since he already has $22,500 saved. Okay. Let me kind of, I'm at 13.5 minutes, but I'm going to kind of quickly go through this one again, right? Because again, there's that little bit of manipulation here that can throw some people off. If you understood what I just did, then fine, stop the video here. But if not, continue to watch on, and I'll try to complete this in the next couple of minutes. Okay, so interest is equal to principal times rate times time, and it's asking me what rate of interest will be needed to pay the loan off today. So if I'm looking for rate, I always put the interest in the numerator and then whatever's left over, principal times time, in the denominator. Now, we need to know how much the interest is. Well, if he's going to put, we have principal of 22,500. And we know that he's going to put that 22,500 in the bank for 200 days. And we're using the ordinary method of 360 days. So the question becomes, how much in interest? Well, if I need to get 23,200 and I already have 22,500, I subtract one from the other and I get $700 is what I need to collect in interest. Oops. So that becomes my interest amount. And I put that in the numerator. Now, in doing the math, I have $700 over. I'm going to multiply the 22,500 times 200, which gives me 4.5 million. Okay, and that's all divided by 360. So I keep my 700 in the numerator. I take my 4.5 million and divide it by 360, and that gives me 12,500. And when I divide the 700 by the 12,500, I get 0.56, 0.056, I'm sorry. And I move the decimal place over 2 places, so my answer ends up being 5.6%. Okay, and that's it for the word problems, and I'll see you all in the practice summary test.